Click the links to Odysee, Chute, and the others, Discord, Gap. I was thinking, if you're young today, holy cow, you got screwed. You really got screwed. Every generation kind of looks back and thinks that, but if you're like 20 today, you're in for some very, very rough times. Being old has got its advantages, or relatively. First of all, Facebook is false flags, Facebook, and the whistleblower. Or is it a whistleblower? First of all, Facebook is spying on you, which isn't news to anyone. So is Google. Any piece of data that your phone can deal with, and your phone can actually deal with quite a bit. If you look into the technicalities of what, there's apps on the Android store to see like what your phone can actually measure. Can measure quite a bit of data. You can assume all that goes to Google, Facebook, and puppet masters in the government or wherever. I mean, Facebook just had a data leak where they're selling all the data from Facebook. And the thing is, even if you're not on Facebook, you're on Facebook, which trips people out, and you realize like, oh, you're graduated high school in so-and-so year, you've got a name, you're two other friends, you have your own profiles, but there's a third person in the picture that you identify. So then Facebook now has that name and photo ID of that person. It's like, you don't have to be on Facebook. There can be 50 photos of you when you graduate from high school, where you went to college, where you got your master's, your JD, your whatever. It's like you're already on Facebook. There's a spot reserved for you, and there's a whole bunch of data already on you. And it's shocking what companies can do with that data, how they can interpret and extrapolate what kind of person you're likely to be from like your ghost profile on Facebook. Anyway, homeboys in Chicago, I know this doesn't sound related, but it really is, delete 1 or 2 people a day, and there are carjackings every day. But the FBI is spying on people who support the J6 crowd. That's their priority. Daily deletions in Chicago, but they ignore that. Black lives do not matter to them. Oh, we can do both, but you're not doing both. You're just focusing on the most asinine political intimidation, and you're ignoring deletions in St. Louis every day. Like, you could put the FBI in Chicago and like just have them work on stopping Chicago crime. Anyway, so what's going to happen in the very near future for social media or the internet in general is you're going to need a digital ID to get online, and it will be tied to your social credit score, part of which will be tied into your, I'll say, health status. Dave Cullen and others have been saying this for a while, and it doesn't exactly take a soothsayer to say that censorious people will continue along their path. We're just taking away liberties for your safety. It's just like Star Wars. Yeah, it's just like Star Wars. You want another little prediction? They'll push a false flag where a fair-skinned group does a malum in se act, and they decide that as an emergency order, they will bypass the Second Amendment. It won't be legal, but neither are any of the restrictions in the past 200 years. They absolutely will take the liberty devices because they have to do that first. The only way to stop them is with militias. Militias take time, they take effort, they take some money, and it also mostly takes a psychological burden that you have to overcome to hit the point of saying, oh, this is actually happening. We have to do this. You don't have time to form them after they start taking the hardware, which is why Biden will do it soon, because people are waking up. And I mean, there's these two intersecting lines. Will people wake up in time? I don't know. People are pretty happy with the bread and circuses we have. They'll just red flag anyone with a bad social credit score. No travel, no liberty devices, no banking, no shopping. They'll unperson you. If they want to, they'll just put you in re-education camps. 1/3 of your neighbors would turn you in. The other third would probably be apathetic. Biden is accelerating things faster than most people ever imagined. Garfinkel, has the FBI going after parents at school board meetings. Gee, what happened to that Supreme Court decision about the chilling effect on free speech? The parents are anti-CRT, and they're teaching things in schools about, it's like in the 90s it was, I've got 2 daddies. Now it's like, it's much, much worse than that. It involves children. They're sexualizing children. It's like these people who have wormed their way into the school districts are as close to Luciferian reptile people as Alex Jones can make them out to be. They're worse than what Alex Jones is willing to call them. Anyway, so Antifa BLM got ignored for 2 years, but Garland is teaming up with the Department of Justice and the FBI to go after parents to intimidate them into silence. That is crazier than most people imagine. There are left-wing Twitter folks who absolutely support this. They say the parents threaten people. The FBI should go after them, except that they haven't threatened anyone. If these parents hurt or threatened anyone, it would be all over social media. Everyone in the room has a cell phone to record. If anyone made threats, they'd call the police and have them deal with it on an individual basis. That's what your local police are for. You simply have a couple of them sit inside or park a couple cars outside in case things get rowdy and have a couple cops inside. It's not a big deal. Merrick Garland is trying to intimidate the parents into silence by use of the FBI. The issue the parents are at odds with is the CRT and the medical experiment as a prerequisite for school. Let me be clear here. No protests or petitions or voting will stop the schools from being anti-white. They have taken off the mask. It's Soros, Rothschilds, and Garfinkel. Anti-white school is the future of America and the school system. If your kids are in public schools, they will be brainwashed into anti-whiteism. Gee, what happened to the left? Well, they got subverted. So private school or small neighborhood homeschools are the only way to teach your kids to love themselves, to learn the classics, a little Greek, a little Latin, and a pro-European nationalist version of history like you've been taught up until, I don't know when it started to turn around. It turns around slowly. They subvert things slowly. Hey kids, we're going to read a little Rockwell, Ford, and Luther today. The thing is, and I mean, as well they should. It's like you should know all sides of an argument. The thing is, like, since, I don't know, the 80s and 90s, schools have been completely subverted where you're only learning Mao and Stalin. The thing is, schools have been run by Marxists for 80 years. There is no unbiased anything. You may as well teach the kids how awesome they and their ancestors were. Teach them to love their tribe first, that they are the best, and teach them of the evil of the Bolsheviks, the history of Marxism, and other evil people and concepts. You have to teach them this history of communism and who is pushing it today. The kids have to learn what evil is. It's cool parents are seeking some redress of grievances. It encourages other parents to hold schools accountable, but it has zero chance of success. If your kids are in school in Weimar America, they'll be brainwashed into this anti-white cult. Biden and crew have taken off their masks. I got a little distracted, I guess, but Berg on Facebook is on the Bolsheviks' side. He is their guy. But even people on the same side have different ideas on how to prosecute the battle. Do we send in the orcs or the dragons first? Facebook isn't a free speech guy, not even close. He is a gather your data and sell it to Biden, Soros, and Rothschilds guy. Whatever happens with the whistleblower thing, the media and Facebook are basically the same guy. When a reporter gets a story that puts a little shade on Facebook, their editors and someone in management looks at the story, not so much to test its sources, its truth, but to see if the story fits the overall globalist narrative. If you think a media company gets a story and after determining its veracity goes forward with it, you're crazy. There's not a chance of that happening. Imagine for a second a bombshell story came out against Schumer, Pelosi, Maxine Waters, Kamala, or Biden. You know, one of their top people. Something that would make Biden step down. Do you think the media would cover it? Well, they ignored the laptop story, so there's your answer. My point with Facebook is that it's almost certainly not going to hurt the narrative. If it did, they wouldn't blow it up like they're doing. I mean, think about when with the whole Me Too thing, when someone was accusing someone on the right, CNN, Vanderbilt, that Vanderbilt guy would go, "Oh, they're credibly accused." And then when someone accuses someone on the left, because it turns out like 74% of the people being accused were on the left, and what's the Vanderbilt guy's real name? I don't remember. He's a dude. He's the dude with the gray hair on CNN. They go, "Oh, well, this hasn't been verified by us. It's not credible." It's like, I would happen to believe all women. Like you're believing something, some 40-year-old event, but you're not believing it when the tables are turned. It's like, yeah, you guys are partisan as hell. I think people finally know that, finally. So even normies have woken up to that. Think about in the media and the social media Anderson Cooper. He was the Vanderbilt guy. The social media companies, there should be leaks and whistleblowers every year. But who is going to publish the story? Project Veritas has been kicked off Twitter. A group that focuses on exposing corruption has been kicked off, and Facebook, Instagram won't allow some of their videos if they go against the narrative. If the media is interviewing this girl, then it's almost certainly fake, and the G word for lighthearted and frivolous. It's an op from start to finish. Or the best you could say is that something is going on we don't have the full picture of yet, but they're absolutely peeing on our legs. They're absolutely screwing us. It's just we don't have the full picture of it. There's no way that they're actually doing news. News stopped, I don't know, somewhere in the 80s. So what they're doing something, but they're not doing news. 100% of the media now is only going to tell you the propaganda narrative, not the news. The news is on alt media, Gab, and Telegram. And just because you're on the right, you're our guys. It's like, hey man, I'll always ask for receipts. I always look for facts and evidence. Follow the scientific method. Just because it's someone on the right, it's like, hey, you still need to see receipts. Anything the media is pushing is a lie. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. Quran 434. Most everything in the mainstream is a lie. Everything, the future eventually, the short version is like, yeah, they're going to make you register to use the internet so they can arrest anyone who does any wrong thing whatsoever. That's the future unless we stop it. And it takes a lot to reach that burden of saying, oh, this is actually happening. And the next step is, and someone needs to do something about it. And the next step is, oh shit, no one's doing something about it. So it's just us, like just normie people. It's like, oh, we're the ones who have to preserve liberty. Like there's no Rambo that's going to, come in on spider webs and save the day. It's just us. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on Odysee, BitChute, and Discord.